How do we fix the U.S. political system and governments? Number one, let's focus on the politicians, the elected officials, and appointed officials. And to begin, I would say we need to eliminate all salaries, wages, benefits, pensions, all of those kickbacks that they get. So, in other words, they have no compensation whatsoever while in the role. None whatsoever. Next, I would say they can only serve one term for their lifetime. That is it. They can't run for a second term or consecutive terms, and they get their one run and that's it. So there's no secondary campaign. So they'll just have their first campaign and then run their term and serve their term, and that's it. Secondly, or the third, I would say there must be a cutoff on age. So, for example, for the President of the United States, one has to be at least 35 years of age to qualify to run for president. I would argue that yes, 35 needs to be the minimum. I think that's a good number for a minimum. And I would say the cutoff needs to be 50 years of age. So if you are older than 50, you cannot be appointed to some type of position. You cannot run to be some type of elected official. And people say, oh, well, people can do just as good a job at 55, 60, 70. Well, that might be the case. However, I can bet you they will do a better job as a 45, 35-year-old than they would at an older age, until the world comes up with a pill to make us all live forever in the prime of our growth. This needs to happen. We can't get a driver's license in the U.S. until 16 or 18 years old. And why don't we have a cutoff when you have to stop driving because it becomes a public safety issue? I mean, we see people that shouldn't be driving in their 80s and 90s, and accidents happen. Let's just be honest. They were much better drivers at 30 or 40 than at 70 or 80. It's just how it is until we come up with a pill to make us live forever in the prime. So 35 to 50, that needs to be the age range. If you're not in that age range, you do not qualify. Point simple, point blank. Next, I would say that in regards to voting, I don't think someone should be allowed to vote unless they have skin in the game. And what I mean by that is a net positive skin in the game. So in other words, you are paying in more in taxes than you are receiving in benefits or refunds back. So if you don't fall in that category, if you don't have skin in the game, you should not be able to vote for anything, and especially for programs that's going to inevitably tax you more. So that absolutely needs to be the case. If you don't have skin in the game, you can't play the game. That should be how it works. And back to the politicians, the elected officials, the appointed individuals, I would also say that back to the topic of not taking any wages, salaries, benefits, pensions, anything, any type of kickback, those individuals must be completely and securely, financially self-sufficient, self-set. In other words, they shouldn't have to work for a living at that point in time if they decide to run. Money should not be a question in their head whatsoever. And another thing in regards to those individuals, I would argue that they would also need to have contributed something to society, whether that be, for example, maybe they built a business that provided a valuable good and or service to the world's economies in one way or another. That would be an example. Or maybe they did some grand research that contributed greatly to mankind. They must have accomplished, built, produced, did something to really better mankind in some way, shape, or form. In other words, they can't just be a trust fund baby that's never built, done anything, and just went right into politics. And also, I would argue we must be very cautious of individuals that are over enthusiastic about being an elected official or an appointed person under an elected official. I mean, it's something to think about. Most people would say that the people you want in those positions don't want to be in those positions. Those are the best candidates. But these are topics that we need to think about. And I think if we implemented these things, it would greatly enhance the United States government, our political system, the constant back and forth that we have going on. I mean, for example, the politicians, how they can run for consecutive terms. I mean, half of their first term or consecutive term is spent going through another campaign to try to get reelected. And so they're not even focusing on the job of their current term, finishing that out. It's absolutely absurd. So these things need to be, I believe, implemented, and I think we will see an immediate benefit in the system. So comment down below, what are your thoughts on this topic and what I have said. I really would invite people to challenge me on those ideas. And tap the subscribe button, the thumbs up icon, share this video, and hit the bell icon. I do appreciate you watching. Have a good evening.